everyone. My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters,
Filters,
No
No
Fears
Fears
podcast.
podcast.
And today we got a level.
4 elephant. Today is a level 4. And why did we choose a 4?
I mean, gaslighting can be triggering for people. I would assume it's not a fun place.
I mean, it deals with a lot of abusive relationship as well. So that
Hmm.
can be, yeah, it definitely is triggering. So you guys already know if it's too much, you can't handle it. Maybe little by little segments when we post it up, you could go and watch it on YouTube.
Right?
Yes.
And then of course on Spotify and Anchor, you can always pause and come
Yes.
back. And of course, we're going to start with, as usual, our definition. Chubby. I love the definition. It makes me happy.
Gaslighting. Psychologists use the term gaslighting to refer to a specific type of manipulation where the manipulator is trying to get someone else or a group of people to question their own reality, memory, or perceptions. And it's always a serious problem, according to psychologists.
It's a serious problem.
It is a serious problem. And gaslighting is not on doesn't only happen in romantic relationships. It
No.
happens at work, with friends, literally with anybody.
With anybody, I trying to be delicate. This person is older and they don't believe all these words that are now coming up to as identifiers to different things. They no, it doesn't count for me. So they have a tendency to gaslight those around them. And it's become so secondhand and rich, like
They don't
they don't
realize.
even notice it, and they get so butthurt and in their feelings um about how the person just can't. And the day that I told him, hey, that you're doing this and this is what it, I don't do that.
Because they can recognize the patterns in themselves, I'm sure.
And then it became about how, oh, that's just you and your generation coming up with crappy. No, this is like in psychology.
Yeah, it's been done before. It's just that now there's a word for it, just like everything else, It's been there. It's just not now we have an actual word for it to describe this. And I'm pretty sure when we were growing up, we didn't hear that.
No.
We could recognize the pattern of what the hell was being done, but we don't there was never the word to describe it. So I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time it's like no, this is what you're doing.
Right. And mind you, it's not like a term that I'm sure she's heard at some point or another, because it comes from a film. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? It comes from like something that was done in a film. And it's literally the lamps that were gas and they turning it up and down to make the wife think that she was going crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that they've heard it. They're just acting like they don't know.
They refuse. I mean, some people refuse to acknowledge that they have a shitty pattern or a behavior, pattern that needs to be quote unquote fixed. What is it called? Like a trait.
Yeah.
So it's up to the other person. That's one of the things that I read. How to stop gaslighting. You need to speak up about the behavior. So tell the person, hey, I feel like you're doing this. So then you talk to the person about it. You guys talking, and then the other person is like, no, this is not, I'm not doing that. Then there's a deeper, like deeper to go into that.
And the thing, and you were saying just before we went live that, you've done it and I've done it. And you're like, oh, it makes you feel shitty. But then, of course, there's also like the extremes of when it becomes very abusive. Like if you have somebody who knows how to call it out, they'll tell you, hey, you're doing this. And you need to recognize it and not be a shithead.
Right.
You know what I mean? And respond accordingly. But there's people that have no intention of stopping. And I just asked therapist Helen, because I know that we're in the age where we like to find these new identifiers, these new words, and just place it on everything. And then
Right.
everybody's a narcissist, everybody's bipolar, everybody's all these things. And it's like, that's massively wrong. And it's also like unhealthy, no? Doesn't that border on being unhealthy? And you're also like playing that again in people's minds that that's really not the problem that they have.
Right. So now they start believing it's
Shitty all the way around. So I feel like gaslighting is one of those things that now is everybody's favorite word. So in arguments, it's the thing that you throw when you don't want to be wrong.
Right. Because that's now they're using it, yes, an argument.
Or where any other information coming in has no place in your brain, right? So I'm not saying that it's non-existent and that doesn't happen. It absolutely does. Right. But where can we figure out what that fine line is between somebody, you're gaslighting me, and that's what, like, and then I asked therapist Helen, and I said, what is it when they do it right back? And I was given the word steamrolling. I have a definition for you.
Oh, sure.
Ooh, Vanessa with the definition. To quickly dismiss someone in a heated argument and interject your own opinion, totally ignoring what the other person is saying. But you see, I don't feel like even that is the definition of what I'm looking for.
Right.
Pero también pasa. Pero también, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, we're just going to call each other gaslighters back and forth and not achieve anything.
Yeah, because you're not listening to each other. You're just like, I'm right, and that's it. I don't care what you have to say, I'm right. And then the other person feels the same way.
Hit the nail on the head. You said listening.
Yeah.
And I know that when I get into those modes of like, blah, 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 I'm not listening.
See, for me, it's like I don't like to argue because I need to understand why you are feeling the way you are feeling. What were the words that I said, or what was the thing that triggered you from me that made you react that way? So that's how I am. That's how I behave now. So that's what I do in order for me to understand why you're mad or why you are upset. But
it's crazy pants because like the more you try to be like that, sometimes if the conversation is not in a place for the other person to meet you where you're at, of like calming down and seeing that, like if you're trying to do that and it's just like, no, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
No, exactly. So even though I'm being this way and the other person's like, no, I don't feel like talking right now. I don't, and I'm like, okay, no problem. Just come back to me when you're ready to talk about it. But then they get mad at either way. So it's like, I don't know what the fuck you want from the other person anyway.
Because I'll use the example of the older person that didn't know that this word existed and didn't know that this is what they were doing, right? We're having a conversation and I am accused of gaslighting when the entire time that's what they're doing to me in the scenario. And I telling them, no, but you're gaslighting me because that's not what happened. Now this person has issues with memory and whatnot, right? So knowing facts and then hearing it thrown so far off, it's like, what really does make you feel crazy? It makes you feel frustrated. And then it's just going around in a circle de nada.
And honestly, when it happens so often, like day after day, let's say, you start questioning, it's like, are you serious? Like it's me. So I'm the problem. So everything I do, you find it to be a problem.
And that's when I sent you one of those things, didn't I? Like if you have to start questioning if you're the problem for everything.
Right. Then because that has happened to me, and I was like, no, this is bullshit. And I was like, it can't be just me. Like, you need to sit there and question, why are you blaming me for what the things that you claim are my fault? First time I was like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry, you know, I didn't mean to. Ya by segundo and the third day, you're like, fuck this, what is going on? You know, it does become frustrating because you're like, what am I doing? You know, and then you're so secure in yourself and you know that you don't gaslight, you don't do that. For it to be thrown at you and you recognizing the patterns is like, no. There is something going on. This is not happening. I am not liking this.
Looking at that article from Psychology Today, they talk about what when it's gaslighting and when it's versus manipulation, right? Manipulation is a key part of gaslighting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gaslighting you, but manipulation can still be abusive.
Right.
And the person answering, just so you know who this is talking, is Dr. Stephanie Sarkis. And this is a book. I don't have Tubi's book corner. This
No.
is a book. Gaslighting, recognize manipulative and emotionally abusive people and break free. But it's an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Influences or manipulation is used in various fields, particularly marketing and advertising, to get us to buy things. And you can say that kids learn manipulation at an early age. How to get something from one parent if the other one says no. So it's something that's not always bad. That still sounds pretty shitty to me. It's just how we learn to work the system. But when it comes to a series of behaviors where the sole intent is to gain control of someone else, then you're getting into gaslighting behaviors. It's a form of abuse. And usually the person displays a pattern of these manipulation tactics throughout several relationships.
Interesting that they use the kid example, because it is true. We start manipulating the kids when, they're, kids, obviously, when they're small, and it's easier
Right.
to do that.
Major component of gaslighting is intent.
Oof.
More common forms of manipulation are about getting our own way or gaming the system, whereas gaslighting is about controlling another person. Consistent behavior pattern, both within single relationship or across multiple relationships. Then they have gaslighting versus narcissism. Right? These are the words that I'm saying that everybody's like now all willy-nilly. Like everybody's a narcissist. Everybody like,
I know. Everybody's everything under the sun today in this time.
coño, qué fuerte. When really I think like you nailed it in the head before. Like listening, and that's on both sides. You know what I mean? Listening, is this what is being done to me, and listening to yourself. The thing in steamrolling, when I looked it up really quick, when Helen told me, basically what they were saying is like stop, collaborate, and listen. Like stop, pause, listen first before you're like opinion.
Right. And another thing is like, whatever you want to communicate, just make sure that you're using the correct words, not trying to insult, not trying to gaslight, not trying to make it all about them or you, just trying to be neutral ground, but communicate what you need to do, but effectively, so the
Right.
other person doesn't feel attacked.
Right. I mean, all of this ties back to those past episodes of like season 1 and 2 of like communication and such. Like, hablando, ¿me entiende la gente?
Right.
I just recently had I'm on a board for an artistic organization, and we just recently had a virtual, it was very interesting, board retreat. But I learned so much from the facilitator in that. They were so wonderful. At the beginning, you come in very incredulous. You're like, this lady is too kumbaya for my taste. You know, everything's like, let's hold space for that. And I was like, she's using words that I know too well.
Right.
And I was like, but like you're all like mad, and you know you're there because you want to say que fulanito la jodió, and we're not getting work done because fulanito the bitch. Like, so everybody's like in a space. Let's see where we're at. And certain of these tactics, I'm like, this does not just apply to people working together on a board. I'm gonna apply this to life. When I do my classes, I think I'm gonna teach my students like this, because it basically says, you know, they do access points. Like, do you have everything that you need? And it's access literally. Like, do you have coffee? Do you have internet connection? La 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 la. And then it's like access, emotional access. Like, where are you at? Somebody very vulnerably shared that somebody close to them had just passed away. And, you know, so that gives you an idea of where they're at for this meeting. So you could be a little bit more courteous and conscientious and considerate of where they're at. But she used certain terms that I was like, number one, it's exhausting, right? When you're angry and you're trying to get shit done, all these fancy tools is not what you're thinking about.
Right.
It's not what comes to mind. Now, when everybody calms their caballos down and you want to like find a solution versus just keep pinpointing the problem, then maybe you pull out these things. But it was like naming the problem. I'm naming that this is what, was an issue or angry. Okay, I received that. Like, receiving doesn't mean you agree with it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But you're receiving it. You're being open to hearing this person for real. I receive the information. It's just really interesting because sometimes I don't. Does this happen to you? I'm gonna ask, and it probably doesn't. It probably just happens when you hear things that are like incorrect. Like this, the board meeting really taught me a lot because I was like ready to go for the jugular on a lot of people in there. But it's like when you hear things that are not correct, legitimately,
Mhm.
factually incorrect, and then on top of that, assumptions of things that did not ever come to fruition or anything like that. It's really difficult for me to shut up and not say, wait a minute, that's
Yeah,
that's not what it is.
that happens to me a lot. I'm like, that's not right. But I do it. But when I hear that, I just wait for them to be done, and then I go to them privately afterwards. I'm like, you do know that was like,
But this was like safe space, so I was able to be like, no, wait a minute.
well, which is a good thing. But
Right. But at the same time, it also taught me, okay, and the facilitator, and these are things that we inherently know, it's logical. But again, heightened emotions
right.
make you not think like that. So it's like, okay, just because it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
they are incorrect, does not mean that they don't feel shitty about it.
Right. True.
Whatever they interpreted from what actually happened still made them feel shitty or like defensive or like they needed to call somebody out. So, por un lado, you hold your horses to know emotionally it affected them regardless. But then how lovely would it be to have a freaking facilitator with you every day of your damn life?
That would be good.
Because what happens is you might do that work, but the person on the other side is not doing it. They're like, no.
Exactly. That's
And
the
how do
thing.
you communicate? Listen, without sounding like too measured. What happened was that the phone call should have been taka taka taka. They should have been the whatever, and that's what happened. But you didn't know that, so that's why it's never gonna happen. Because then they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're making me think like I'm crazy. Like I didn't do my research on how this works or whatever the case may be." So
Right.
right. So it's like it's so lovely if there was an outside voice, like a referee saying, "Nope, calm down,
Yeah,
penalty."
that's another thing. People jump into conclusion, and that's where they fuck it up. You were reminding me about holding space. You remember at the beginning of the podcast how we used to be like every Wednesday, like, "Are you okay? How's your mental state? Are we good to do the episode?
Yeah.
Are we good for the?" And we still do it to this day, but now we don't. It's just so natural to us that it just
Besides
flows.
the fact that if it was and it didn't happen right after the episode, like we message it right away. Yeah.
Right, right. So that's always good to have, a tool, to have that tool with you.
The check-ins.
The check-ins are always important because, you can do an episode, like, for example, us, and be like, your mind is somewhere else and you can't think about what we're talking about. You're literally just stuck in. But going back to what you were saying about the gaslighting and the manipulation, you just
Hmm.
reminded me. I wanted to know how someone becomes a gaslighter. Like what's going on? I'm sorry, about a narcissist, not manipulation. And I
Oh,
wanted to know. So then it says gaslighters become that way because they want to gain power over others. That this is a need for domination may stem from narcissism, antisocial personality, or other issues. So it's just that goes deep. And this
yeah.
is a serious gaslighters. I'm talking about the ones that are like abusive to the point where they're abusive, not the passive gaslighters. Like, we've done it before, one or twice, that's fine. But I'm talking about the ones that are like a constant, like to everybody, anyone, anytime.
Because the intent is to control, right?
Exactly.
Um, okay, so it's what did you say the things were? What leads them to there?
Narcissism, antisocial personality, or others,
Right.
other issues. So
Because see, those are like very serious issues. I guess the other ones that they don't include are like the ones where it's like there's a lot of people that do it with consistency. I guess this is really stupid that I'm comparing it to somebody in a play. But
but
hey, the term came from a movie and a play, so calm down.
after all,
But the reason I think about this character is if you, upon first read, the character is really fucked up. Okay, they are they're an addict. I don't mean that that's what makes them fucked up. They're fucked up in the sense that like there's something that doesn't feel quite good intentioned, well intentioned, to the other person that they're talking to. But they're an addict. They just got out of prison, but they're a person that comes from a really hard background of living on the streets from very young because they didn't have a very close relationship with the family, of going into hard drugs really young and using it all their life, even while in prison. And then the only real relationship that they consider to be a real loving relationship while they're in prison moves on,
oh,
becomes sober, starts trying to get their kids back, which means in one way or another being close to their ex. So this character gets out of jail, finds all of that, starts falling apart, and doesn't stop, right, with the manipulative tactics and the gaslighting until they get the other character to do cocaine with them. And it sounds really shitty. And people really dislike that character. I could not help but feel really bad for that character.
so the reason why they wanted the other character to get back
They
to it.
knew nothing else. And the intention wasn't like you literally are a piece of shit and that's all that we're ever going to be.
Mhm.
It's I'm losing everything. I have nothing. And if
Got
I don't have you. So it was a an unhealthy choice, a very toxic choice, right?
Yeah.
Which I tread easily with the word toxic because it's another one of those that the more I hear it, the more I'm like, it's one of those that estamos tirando
Basically,
all
like
over the damn
three.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it is what it is when it is, you know. So came from a place of need, a sort of call for help. They just went about it the really fucked up way, right? So it messes with your head, the humanity part of that. But the fact is that they're using abusive tactics to reel this
Right.
person back in to a relationship that's not healthy for them,
I
to
was gonna
make
say,
them lose their family and etc. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I was gonna say they end up winning, but in reality, they're both losing.
But when you compare this person that I just painted this picture, they've had a really difficult upbringing, right? Little what
Mhm.
after we talked about right attachment styles and all that that means and how it starts from like with the parents and whatnot. So knowing this about this character and how difficult that was, how can you compare that misguided kind of approach to
Mhm.
a to to certain issues like narcissism? And I don't know, but you know why I don't need to know? Because I'm not a therapist.
Right. Well, if there is a therapist watching, you could help us. But no,
I'm not that trying to excuse, you know what I'm saying, gaslighting at all. But maybe it helps you kind of figure out like what kind of help.
right, because sometimes we are like, oh, why is this person like this? But we don't sit there and wonder, like, sit there and actually figure out why. We just like, oh, this person's fucked up, and you know, instead, if you have a friend like that, for example, and you really want to, if you care, go to them and be like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on?
It happens automatically when like the difficulty is
Right.
the desire to be vulnerable. And we've talked about the importance of vulnerability, right? So if in a relationship you don't feel that you can be vulnerable enough to say, listen, it wasn't just me acting a fool. It triggers me because X, H, I, V, right?
I was gonna say holding space for the other person, but the other person needs to be willing to to come, to those terms as well. If more than one person has told you have been gaslighting everybody, and it's not just me saying it, but the other person is like, no, 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 it's not me. What do you mean? Everybody has the problem.
And there's that.
Right, exactly. My back to steamrolling. But
Yeah.
it is difficult. I have a list.
List it for me.
Not how to stop being gaslighted, but to recognize patterns.
Just equally as important, because you may not have the tools or know-how, but at least if you can recognize it, you can be like, okay, I don't know how I'm doing this. Somebody help.
Right. So, how to recognize if you're being gaslighted? Like, no longer feeling like the person you used to be. So, we all had that feeling like you're like, you're secure of who you are. You're this way, and all of a sudden, the other person's trying to tell you a couple of things, and you're like, but you feel wrong because you're like, no, but that's not who I am. That's not how, I don't do that. Being more anxious and less confident than you used to be. That questioning everything. Oh my God, if I do this, are they going to be okay? Oh my God, no, but what if I say this? Oh no, wait. That's another freaking issue.
Yeah.
Often wondering,
Having to plot your every move.
huh?
Having to plot your every move.
Right. Oh, there goes, often wondering if you're too sensitive. Feeling like everything you're doing is wrong. Always thinking if it's your fault when things do go wrong. This is too much. Apologizing often, which I never do.
And I have stopped.
I know.
And that for me wasn't necessarily born of maybe, because since we never know, but but being a people pleaser.
Right. These are things that intertwine with each other. So everything is just one big, huge freaking circle. Having a sense that something's wrong, but being unable to identify what it is. Often questioning whether your response to your partner is appropriate. If you're being too unreasonable or not loving enough. Start recognizing your patterns, people. If you're watching this, start recognizing your own patterns. Um, Making excuses for your partner's behavior. That's the biggest one. Oh
No,
no, they're just tired from work
that's
today.
fuerte.
Yeah, every single day, every time they're in a party, every time they're with other people, like dinner, families.
That's where you start to see those abusive effects, because I hear that and automatically I think of domestic abuse when they excuse whatever or cover up whatever because so see.
Yeah, which that does often happen in abusive relationship, romantic abusive relationships. Often, too often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Avoiding giving information to friends or family members to avoid confrontation about your partner. That now we're getting deep into the abusive of the relationship. Oof. Feeling isolated from your friends and family. Even worse. What does this remind you of?
Stockholm.
That too, yeah.
Oh, part of the red flags for the targeting.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It does remind me of human trafficking. For whoever that didn't see it, that was episode 34. So um find it increasingly hard to make decisions. And the last one, but not obviously, feeling hopeless and taking little or no pleasure in activities you used to enjoy. If you start losing yourself and it's been like becoming a robot afterwards, you're just like you have no feelings, no nothing, you're just there. Sad. You just lose yourself, you lose who you are. Just to be with a person that just wants the power, just wants to control you and feel better about themselves, because they clearly have issues. Do you have anything else to share about it?
I had another list as well.
Yeah.
This was from the Healthline article. I'm telling you, health is my friend. I mentioned so many of them. This one is really interesting. This is the same Stephanie Sarkis, the one that wrote that book. I'm sorry, Psychology Today, not Healthline.
Mm-hmm.
They throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you.
Ooh, yes, believing that the relationship is gonna go, it's better, getting better. Yes, yes. Oh, that's an important one.
Their actions do not match their words. Personally, should put it right at the top is they're blatant lies. They tell blatant lies. I will. We know I can't deal with liars.
We're being light with it right now, even though we know it's a serious issue. We know that a lot of people are in abusive relationships, and it's not just gaslighting. It's physical abuse. Yes, psychological abuse is the greatest one. Like, you could get over the physical abuse, but when it comes to the mental one,
That's
I feel
big.
like it's the highest one to overcome, because it's you're in there, you're stuck in there. You could heal.
And there's no real saying. Like we put these trigger warnings at the beginning of episodes, and sometimes we may over assess what the trigger warning may be, but it's also out of caution because you never know how or what may be triggering to someone in a way that you're not expecting, or to what degree.
Right, exactly. We don't know. And that's all we could do. Just put our trigger warnings and hope,
I mean, is there any? Have you ever had a moment where something occurs and you never known it to be a trigger for you before, but maybe now that you're more aware of things and your emotions and your memories and the thing and the work that you've done, like, and you
Yeah,
didn't even know it was a trigger, all of a sudden it's a trigger now.
yeah, it has. Sometimes when we're doing our episodes about these things, I realize I'm like, holy hell. I didn't even realize. But yeah, it has happened to me multiple times.
Yeah.
But then I have to sit there and wonder why. And then I'm like, okay, this is why. And then I have to, work through it
Or
and
things that you thought that were healed already.
yeah, sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That has happened to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With
Yeah.
a lot of these episodes, especially a lot of the mental health related ones. That's where the whole joke of throwing under the bus came from, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is that a lot of our episodes for both of us makes us really recognize in from past to present to how we want to be in the future, all of these things. And even though a lot of the conversation may be opinion based, the things that are statistical make us reflect and recognize, oh, you know,
Right. We've have shared our own struggle and our own sick patterns that we've had, and I had plenty that I recognize that little by little we're just growing together. We're trying to be
yeah.
better people.
And we have to, it's like, it's all we ever, like we've discussed on multiple episodes that it doesn't even have to do. But the fact is, the uncomfortable conversations are important
Exactly.
in interpersonal relationships on grander scales. To feel uncomfortable about sharing a perspective or a true feeling, a genuine feeling about something, you have to be that uncomfortable because you might be, I don't want, it's not corrected, like, but you might be surprised to learn something different. It serves you more than what you'd been holding on to that entire time.
And like we said before, you have to sit there and actually want to be better and sit in that uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you don't know the healing that you need to go through in order for you to get to the other side that you didn't even know you needed.
It's like a lot of people take issue with books or TV shows or movies or plays being done around similar topics. But the fact is, maybe one movie gets like gets to 30 people. A book that a sociologist wrote gets to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? The language of the listener. They have to be told because we keep repeating history literally, right? And the more that we're learning about and becoming more accepting and like mental health is not as taboo and all these things, the uncomfortable conversations are even more necessary.
Right. And again, as time goes by, new things, new information, gets shared, gets known. And there are a lot of things that are still applied today that are like debunked, that are not true. Like you just said about mental health, a lot of things of it are like, you still believe in that? That has been debunked. That's not true. So Information needs to be updated as well.
Absolutely. Look at the laws. Look at the episode about the laws. How many laws that need to be updated?
Ridiculous.
Look at the technology episode. We talked about how back in the day, don't watch too much TV. It's going to rot your brain. Da 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 da. But now everything that we do is quite literally a freaking screen.
But it's brainwashing us in a way.
But you know what I mean? And it's like that James Wildman quote from that vegan conference thing.
Mm-hmm.
I get told something enough times, it becomes the truth, and the truth becomes the culture, and the culture becomes the tradition, and the tradition becomes the moral code.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Again, reading is essential. We have to do it. And we do it every time for our episodes because we know something, but we don't know enough. So let's read,
Right. And you
And
can't just read the one thing, you got to read a bunch.
right, 500
Yeah.
million things in order for us to get our facts straight. Because,
Not the one side. Everybody has their opinion.
it is opinion based also, but we want to bring facts in. Do you have any quotes for us today?
I do have quote. I tried looking for Brené Brown. I found one that I think comes close. She's gonna be on the show one day. I need this to happen.
Whoever's listening, if you can make this happen, we're going to say it so much, so often that the universe is going to be like, toma.
Hello. I really want Brian to do like a music video playing the guitar. I'm just putting that out there, Brian. Do like a music video playing the intro song on guitar with like cool shades. And there's like with his mountains in the background, like from the New Year, from the gratitude episode. Someone who gaslights you is trying to talk you out of your experience to alleviate their shame and responsibility to an issue. It's a tool and control. What? It's a tool to control and manipulate you. Henry Cloud.
I feel like these people, the gaslighters, instead of dealing with their own problems, it's an escape thing for them. To be like, let me, like when the bullies other someone just so they could feel better about themselves. Same thing.
And this goes to when we were talking about like knowing more about the person and not just jumping to like, okay, they're garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is terrible. When you fully understand how often people cope with their own insecurities, fear, and unresolved issues by projecting negativity onto you, you'll quickly learn not to take the things that they say or do to heart. Those are their issues. Don't give them permission to make them yours. But also a little bit of compassion. But you have to recognize when they are trying to fuck with you, right? And it's one of those like misguided. They're not doing it because they want to be harmful or evil to you. It's their way. It's their only way they know.
Yeah. And like you said, it's harder when it's somebody you know.
And you also have an option to just get the fuck away. Cannot deal with. I love you so much, right?
Yeah, if you're able to, like you said, I mean, sometimes it's a deeper relationship, and some people can't just leave. So it depends, yeah.
And this goes back. I think I actually read this one during the shame episode. I feel it applies. We cannot grow when we are in shame, and we can't use shame to change ourselves or others. Steamrolling and the gaslighting and the calling, like, what is it? No recetando, but like, diagnosing people at large with being narcissistic or bipolar. Don't do that shit to people.
That's the thing. They just automatically they think it's a passerby comment, and it's like, no, that stay with the person sometimes too.
I mean, I can think of quite a few things that I've said that my intention wasn't nasty, but the effect had long-term effects on that other person. We all on the journey. We all doing the thing.
We are, and we're only here to learn about our patterns. Like right now, we're recognizing we've done it, but what can we do to be better for next time? Not fucking do it because we know it's not.
She had a lot of oh shit moments. Oh shit.
Right, I had a oh shit moment this afternoon. I was like, oh shit, I've done it before. Even when before we started, I told you I've fucking done it. But guess what? Now we know. Now we
Yeah,
move
well,
on.
the biggest thing Dr. Sarkin says is intention.
Right, right,
Now, that does not mean, and we see that a lot nowadays with the need for uncomfortable conversations, and people show up and then they decide what applies to them and what doesn't, not based on what actually applies, but what they want to apply to them,
right.
right? A loose example. Well, I'm not racist, but microaggressions are real, right?
Mm.
So that same thing. Like we're at least saying, oh yeah, we've done the gaslighting bit, but the intention and the consistency of how much someone does it.
Exactly. That's the thing, recognizing the pattern, let's say friend or a loved one, and you see it happening, repeating often, then like you said, that's when the problem is. That's when you should address
Yeah.
it. But if it's just like one time in 3 years, then you know,
Yeah.
I don't think
And
it's a
like,
serious problem.
and we shared lists or points of things to keep a lookout for. The best that I could do as a recommendation of like what to do with it. Again, hashtag not a therapist. Best thing you could do if you feel that this is something that's very consistent and affecting your life to the points of like what the list that Chubi said, that's pretty severe. That's your entire life. Get get professionals to help you in that situation. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
let somebody know, anybody, your family, your friends, and like you said, get professional help. If you're able to escape this, depending on how severe this is, the relationship, how abusive it is, if you're able to get professional help.
even if it's starting to be an issue, ain't nothing wrong. Like we already had, you know, Fernando come on. There's family therapists out there, couples therapy,
Right.
and if it's just you, you know what I'm saying? Go do you too. That's important. Final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns.
Just address it when it's happening, at the moment it is happening. Personally, I think that's the best way. Just, oh, I didn't feel like what you said was nice. I felt like it was passive aggressive. I don't know. Just address it as it's happening, and if you were uncomfortable with what was said, that's it. And then, if you're in a serious abusive relationship, I'm hoping for you to get help. If you're able to, tell someone. And there's a lot of information out there.
If
You know,
you don't know where to start to look, you guys know you can DM us and we'll put you in contact with somebody who may be able to point you in the right direction.
any comments? Any final thoughts? I mean,
That was my biggest one because I don't feel like I can really say anything on like how to
right,
fix it. A, I am I have done my own share of gaslighting and steamrolling, and B, I've been on the receiving end of it, but not to the degree of what you were talking about previously,
yeah,
where you just no longer have control of your own life or your feelings. I have had like certain things you're saying. I was like, okay, I've questioned that, I felt that, but hablando se entiende la gente. So you have the wherewithal to bring up the conversation, the uncomfortable conversation. But there are people that for whom that's very difficult.
right,
And me, a couple of years ago, would have had a very difficult time bringing that up or to any kind of relationship, right? We know what I mean relationship. I don't just mean romantic. So
yeah,
there's levels and there's difficulties. So like it really has to do, and you say this all the time, Shubi, you got to know yourself a little bit.
right.
Um, because, we put ourselves through a lot sometimes and allow things that we shouldn't. And then the hurt, the turmoil, and all of that becomes ours, you know? So, but if we would have nipped it in the butt, it wouldn't have gone as far.
Right. You reminded me of boundaries, like you just said, nip it in the butt. When you hear it the first time and you just let it go by, but then they do it again, you're letting them know that it was okay the first time. So that's also
It's you, right?
it's all
Y no
starts.
eso no es echando culpa. It's like, it's reclaiming your power.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can fix that for you.
Right,
Fuck
exactly.
them.
Exactly.
That sigh.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know what else to say. So now I'm done.
It's one of those episodes where we wanted to share thoughts with you guys, share those things, the information that should be shared, and the quotey quotes, and you know, our own realizations that have happened during the conversations. But even though this is not live, airing live, you guys are welcome to share your thoughts or responses to any of this in our DMs through Instagram or Facebook. We'll reach back out to you. And what is the face?
No, it says it's live here, but I know we're not live.
Are we live?
Anyway, let's end it so I could freaking.
Okay, well, everybody, we're gonna end it right.
I don't think we are though.
I don't think we are.
Okay, anyway.
It would say the Facebook thing next to it.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
Okay, good.
I don't know.
Anyway, you're welcome. Let's rewind.
Okay.
If you guys ever have any thoughts, comments, or perspectives on everything you've seen here, even though we're not live, feel free to DM us. English. DM us through Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to hear from you and what your opinions are on this. If you have any examples, but also if you need to be pointed in the right direction because it is a problem that you can't seem to fix on your own and you're seeing it take its toll, then we'll happily help you point you in the right direction.
Yep. Our Instagram, our Facebook, like you said, so you know where to find us. Stay fearless, everybody.
Stay fearless, fam.